Young Jen, are you running our slides today? Thank you. All right, are we ready to get started? Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tommy Clark. I'm the Director of NC Pro, and I welcome everyone to our interagency meeting for SFRF. We haven't had one in a while, and but the next several are going to be very important as we have some important news to roll out, some important things to go over, and so let's jump right into it. Young Jen, you want to roll to the agenda slide? We'll take care of some housekeeping items right before we get started. A lot of you will ask for the slides from this presentation. We're not going to send the slides out. However, like a lot of our technical assistants, we will post these slides on our website so that you can download them for yourself. There's 32 people in the meeting right now. I think there's a couple of hundred that are on the invite list. So sending a file like this out to a couple hundred people gets a little crazy. So I will say that this slide presentation will be on our website within the next day or so. Also, we are recording this presentation today. Like our technical assistance sessions as well, we will post this recording on our website so that you can go back and look at it. And anyone who is not here today can also go back and look at it. If you have questions today, I recommend that you raise your hand. We will stop and take that question. Also, if you will put your questions in the chat, if there are enough questions, we may formulate an FAQ and put that FAQ also on our website and add to it as the months go by. Any questions so far? All right, so on the agenda, we've got three things to talk about. We're going to talk about Session Law 2025-97. Then Joy is going to talk about the expenditure deadline and closeout costs. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the future of NC Pro. Next slide, please. So Session Law 2025-97. When I wrote this slide, it was the latest mini budget bill that was signed into law October 22nd. I have not kept up. I don't know if there is another mini budget bill out there. And if there is, I don't know about it. But anyway, when I wrote this slide, it was the latest mini budget bill. It's important to NC Pro because it's giving some flexibility for these SFRF projects that we as an agency and as a state have not had before. If you remember, U.S. Treasury in their guidance has given the states the ability to move funds around from project to project under certain circumstances. However, from a state standpoint, North Carolina, we did not get that opportunity because the General Assembly appropriated the projects. So we don't have that flexibility. We have to go to the General Assembly and they have to actually pass a law to move funds around, which has been done in the past. But this session law is special to us because we get a little bit more flexibility, which we're going to go over today. I've posted also a link to that session law in this particular slide. Also, again, it's 2025-97. It's out there on the website, and you guys can look at that. Next slide, please. I'm not going to read this to you. It would be boring if I did, but basically Section A starts to talk about what we are going to be talking about, which is projects that are covered by the revenue loss calculation in the SFRF codification. North Carolina put all of its revenue replacement projects in that category. So for purposes of this session law, we are only talking about revenue replacement projects. We are not talking about non-revenue replacement projects. All right, let's make that very, very clear. This is only going to be revenue replacement projects, not non-revenue replacement projects. Section B starts to give us the instructions of what it is that the General Assembly expects us to do. The highlighted parts are very important because this is where the General Assembly and their legalese starts to tell us that we shall report to the General Assembly all of the unexpended balances that were categorized as our revenue replacement projects. Okay. So the General Assembly has directed NC Pro to report to them all of the unexpended balances of the SFRF revenue replacement projects. That next highlighted section says that a reclassification may occur. So even though we are going to report to the General Assembly all of the unexpended balances, we don't necessarily have to do a reclassification that we're going to talk about. Okay. Next slide. So this slide talks about the mechanics behind a potential general fund swap out. And that's what this is going to be. This is going to be a general fund swap out for our revenue replacement projects. So in every project that we identify that has unspent SFRF funds, there will be a possibility that we can close this project down, remove all of the unexpended SFRF dollars, and replace it dollar for dollar with general fund revenues. It's not going to be a permanent increase to anybody's budget. And the general fund dollars that you may receive shall be used for the current project intent. General Assembly's made it very clear this is not going to be free general fund money. This is to finish out your projects. If you'll notice in subsection 3, they've talked about the completion of the project by June 30, 2027. So Joy's going to talk about the completion date in a little bit, but we know that that's for SFRF, the period of performance ends December 31st, 2026. This would actually give you guys an extra 6 months to finish out your project. It's also not the ability to receive more funds for the project. We'll cover that in just a bit. All right, let me stop right there. Are there any questions so far? So basically, this is what we're telling you guys with Section Law 2025-97. There is the potential in your revenue replacement projects for a general fund swap out. We are going to report to the General Assembly all of the unexpended balances in every SFRF revenue replacement project. I will say right here that we particularly do not want to do every single project. If the projects are on track to be spent out prior to December 31st, 2026, we would prefer for you guys to go ahead and finish out your project, spend out your SFRF money. That's a lot less paperwork for you, a lot less paperwork for us, and a lot less paperwork for OSBM. Because as you see in this section 6.9C, the mechanics of this is we're going to lower your budget for SFRF, increase your budget non-recurring wise for general fund dollars to come in. And then those general fund dollars, if you don't get them spent by June 30 of 2026, you're going to have to ask for a carry forward for the next year. OSBM will grant that carry forward for you to finish out your project, but you got to make an effort to spend out. Next slide. Section 6.9E gives us, directs us, NC Pro, that no later than April 15th, this report is going to be due. So this report is going to be due for all the remaining unexpended SFRF funds as of December 31st, 2025. And that's coming up quickly. So as of December 31st, 2025, you will get your December expenditure reports to us by January. Then we will compile those so that we have a good, accurate, dependable report to send to the General Assembly no later than April 15th. We'll probably get this to them a lot sooner so that we can identify projects that we can reclassify. And when I say reclassify, we're going to, of course, close out the project and replace those SFRF funds with general funds. Any questions so far? Now, some of you guys out there have been asking, can I get more funds for this project? Our project will, we would certainly like to have more funds to finish out our project. We have not been granted the authority to authorize more than you were originally appropriated in session law. If you look at subsection 1, the last sentence says the report shall also identify projects that are complete and have excess SFRF funds and which SFRF projects need additional funds for completion. So that is opening the door for some potential expansion of funds for projects. But we have to tell the General Assembly what those projects are first. Now we skipped a section in the general statutes. I think it was section C. Section C, which we did not cover, gives NC Pro a $10 cushion to adjust some projects that they, when they were making reclassifications, they either gave the project $1 too much or $1 too little. And so to clean up our books, they have given us the ability to put $1 here, put $1 there to make everything come out even. So that gives you an idea of what Session Law 2025-97, and in this particular case, Section 6.9 is all about. Again, are there any questions on this? I'm sure there's going to be. Feel free to raise your hand. Feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, hearing none. Oh, Daryl?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Of
How are you
course, I'm
doing
going to
today?
ask. I'm doing good, and I'm glad to see you. Um, of course, I'm going to ask this question because I want to be clear on
Yep.
how we stand within our program, Science
Sure.
Museum Grant
Mhm.
Program, which is situated at the North Carolina Natural Science Museum in
Sure.
DNCR.
Yep.
And it may be a simple answer that Steve Bass has done a great job handling us, could answer, and I'm willing to even wait for him to respond to that to me if that's what it takes. But I just want to make sure that we clearly know whether we fit in this category.
I will say, yes, you do. For
Okay.
the vast majority of your projects, if not all of them.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you have any infrastructure projects that might be classified as non-revenue replacement.
Mhm.
I don't have the list in front of me, but I know that the vast majority of your projects fit into this category. It
Okay.
is our intent, if you're on a good trajectory and you're spending down your grant and you want to finish out that grant, that we do not do a revenue or a general fund swap out. That's our intent. This is to help those projects that are not able to spend.
Yeah. We
Or
are.
projects that are, they've spent all their money and they can't do anything else. Or they haven't spent all their money but yet they can't do anything else. So this is one of our final opportunities to help the state of North Carolina get this SFRF money completely spent.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Tommy, there's a question in the chat.
Okay. Let's see what that is. For a project to receive a non-recurring general fund appropriation, does that project also need to have previously received general fund appropriation, specifically trying? I think what the intent of the General Assembly was trying to do in this section was say, this cannot be a new project. And we have certainly fit that category. As you all well know, December 31st, 2024 was the deadline for projects to have been obligated. After that date, no new projects were allowed to be created. And we have stayed with that, and there are no new projects. So I think that what the General Assembly has intended, and we will certainly make sure of this when we speak with fiscal research and the staff, is that, okay, you intended for this to be an existing project, and in existing projects, they received an appropriation. May not have necessarily been a general fund appropriation, but it was an appropriation of the SFRF dollars, because that has to be appropriated every year. Does that answer your question? Okay. And again, we are going to meet on this. It's my intent to meet monthly on this for months to come so that more questions can be generated, more scenarios to be talked about. This is going to take a couple of 3 months for us to get this report generated and finalized. So feel free to think up scenarios, think up questions, bring them to the next meeting in December. Yes, Mark.
So I'm just going to ask this question. Is there any chance that a state agency like DAC, Adult Correction, could get additional funds from other agencies that cannot spend that money? Or is that ship pretty much sailed?
Well, we're going to have to report to the General Assembly what projects could use additional funds for completion. So all that we have been tasked to do right now is identify those. I know that a lot of the larger agencies out there, DEQ, DIT, DHHS, they have their own legislative liaisons that where they contact the budget writers and say, hey, we could use some more of these funds, or hey, we would like something done with our project that would allow some more flexibility. So if you're looking for more funds for your particular projects, make sure that we know that in our report that goes to the General Assembly, and also make sure that you start to communicate that with the budget writers when they come back into town, and I guess it's January. Does that answer your question, Mark?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
You're welcome. Next slide, Young Jen. So this brings us up to the next steps. Your grant managers through December 2025 will be confirming through your normal accountability calls and some stepped up email correspondences on the status of all your projects, all your open projects, all your projects that have not been fully expended. Again, if a project could be spent out by December 2026, but you're uncertain, tell us that too. This is not a punitive flexibility language in the session law. This is to help get these things, get this SFRF money spent in the state of North Carolina. The expense reports that you're going to be submitting in Pangram in January should include every single expenditure through December 2025. That's only going to help us make this report more accurate. And just to show that we're not, we have not just been sitting on our heels. We are currently compiling and updating a nearly complete report already that we will add more data to, update the data as November expense reports come in, and as December expense reports come in, so that we can have a good product as quickly as we can to the General Assembly. Because the quicker we get this to the General Assembly, the faster we can make these decisions, and the sooner we can do this. Okay. You guys have asked some good questions so far. If you have any more questions on this session, I highly recommend going out and reading section 6.9 in this session law for yourself. Make some notes, ask questions of your grant managers, send questions to the NC Pro email address in general. It'll get directed to the person that it needs to get to. And it's my intention to have the meeting on December the 18th. I know that's getting precariously close to Christmas, but as far as I know, that's not part of the holiday, so we will probably still be working. Thank you for your time. Thank you all out there for everything that you do as we have navigated over the last several years, the pandemic recovery operations. And we are on the, I'm not going to say we're in the short rows, but we are getting ready to make that turn toward the short rows. And we look forward to getting everything wrapped up. That is all for me, I believe. Young Jen, what's the next slide on there? Yes. SFRF expenditure deadline, and I'm going to turn it over to Joy.
Good afternoon. So we're now going to walk through our State Fiscal Recovery Fund expenditure deadline and also the types of costs that are going to be allowable after the period of performance ends. So, and if possible, if you will, please hold your questions to the end and then we'll get to them. So based on the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund compliance and reporting guidance, funds that were incurred or obligated as of December 31st, 2024, they must be expended by December 31st, 2026. So funds that are not expended by December 31st of 2026, they must be returned to U.S. Treasury. Administrative closeout costs are allowed from January 1st to April 30th of 2027. However, no other costs are allowed after December 31st, 2026. Next slide, please, Youngden. So the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, FAQ, also provides guidance that recipients must expend their funds by December 31st, 2026, and that administrative closeout costs are the only cost that can be expended after the period of performance ends, which is December 31st of 2026. Administrative closeout costs are allowable until a final report is submitted to U.S. Treasury, which is April 30th of 2027. But funds not expended have to be returned to Treasury. Next slide, please. The 2022 final rule clarifies that funds are required to be liquidated by December 31st, 2026. So that means all program costs must be paid by December 31st, 2026. This includes your payments to subrecipients, contractors, and agency personnel for program costs. All services should be provided, all goods received, and all payments made by December 31st of 2026. All invoices should be received in time so that you can make your payments by December 31st, 2026. Payments cannot be made in January or later in 2027 for program cost. Only allowable closeout costs can be paid starting January the 1st of 2027. Next slide, please, Youngden. The 2022 final rule also clarifies that subrecipients must follow the same rules as recipients. Okay, you can go to the next slide. All right, allowable closeout costs. So what types of costs are allowable after December 31st of 2026? Question 17.5 in the State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, FAQ, defines the types of costs that are eligible. Administrative support, data security measures, review and reconciliation of the general ledger, bank recons, compliance with reporting requirements, policies and procedures, and internal controls, audit costs, and closeout processes are all eligible costs. Next slide, please. All right. From January 1st, 2027 to April 30th, 2027, no programmatic costs are allowed. Only admin costs are allowed. And so here's some examples of what is allowable. Payroll costs for administrative activities, such as personnel performing the following activities. Financial reconciliations, reconciling your supporting documentation to both your subledgers and your subawards, reconciling your subledgers and subawards to your general ledger, bank recons, preparing and submitting expense reports, subaward attachments, and supporting documentation in Pangram, finalizing and reporting key performance indicators, audit costs, and closeout processes such as gathering and organizing your documentation to support compliance with policies, procedures, internal controls, federal and state requirements, and documentation for proof of payment. Please note that large payments in the last quarter of calendar year 2026 and all payments made after December 31st, 2026 will be scrutinized by the auditors. Next slide, please. So final expense reports will be due no later than March 15th, and they should only include allowable closeout costs and admin costs that were incurred through February the 28th of 27. All unexpended balances should be returned to NC Pro by February the 28th of 2027. And note also that Pangram is accessible through April 30th of 2027. But after that, Pangram will enter what's called a post-closeout stage, and they will become inactive to grantees. The data and documents in Pangram will only be accessible for auditing and special purposes. And NC Pro will submit the final report to Treasury by April 30th of 2027, and then no cost at all will be allowed after that time. And just note that the dates on here that NC Pro has set, that's as of today. They could change, but that's kind of what we're seeing as of right now. Last slide, please, Young Jen. So here are some key takeaways from this. One, period of performance ends December 31st of 2026. Funds had to be obligated or incurred by December 31st of 2024. And then we were allowed 2 years to liquidate those funds. Recipients and subrecipients may not expend funds beyond the period of performance. So all funds must be liquidated by December 31st, 2026. Final programmatic data and KPI data for all projects will be due no later than January 15th of 2027. Only allowable administrative closeout costs can be expended from January 1st to April 30th of 27. No program costs will be allowed, including payments to contractors and subrecipients. Only administrative cost. State agencies and subrecipients must report to NC Pro by March 15th of 2027, and no costs will be allowed after February the 28th of 27 for state agencies and subrecipients. And NC Pro will submit our final report by April the 30th of 2027. Any questions? Yes, Mark.
So the February 28th date sounds like that is an internal state requirement. The Fed said, okay, I think I'm getting where we're going, so I know what to present. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's what we are thinking right now, so that we can have time for you submit your expense reports by March 15th. You have to pull your data together through February, submit it to us so that we can pull everything together and have the final report ready to go to Treasury by April the 30th.
Okay, so there wouldn't be any more administrative cost after that. Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. I think the main key takeaway here is that December 31st, 2026 date. We have to start getting ourselves geared towards everything has to be liquidated, not expended. There cannot be an invoice dated December 31st, 2026 sitting on somebody's desk that's going to be paid in January of 2027. It has to be paid. Everything from NC Pro level, state agency level, and subrecipient to contractor. Everything's got to be liquidated by December 31st, 2026. Yes, sir, Mark.
Or we have to have a plan to have it swapped for general fund. Is that?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, just make sure I'm connecting all the
Nope.
dots.
You're connecting the dots. Yes, sir. You certainly are. Right. Any more questions? Thank you, Joy. Again, we will be bringing this back to you guys on a monthly basis to continue to talk about the ending of period of performance, closeout, swap, reporting, all that stuff. We are entering, like I said, we're not in the short rows yet, but we're about to make that turn towards those those very short rows. And the last thing I wanted to talk to you about is the future of the NC Pro office. It's everything that I'm going to tell you guys. NC Pro already knows, OSBM already knows. The NC Pro office is scheduled. It was a creation of the General Assembly. They wrote it into the budget, I think, back in 2020 during the pandemic. It was only supposed to have administered the CRF funds, but when SFRF come out, they extended the office, then they extended the office again. The last extension extended us to June 30 of 2026. There is not on the books right now a desire to extend the office past June 30 of 2026. So the official name of the NC Pro office will cease on June 30 of 2026. Now, everyone that you have been working with, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, will still be staying with us as we are paid for with SFRF funds. We have a duty to get these things closed out by April of 2027. So I'm hoping my team stays with the office until then, until we get everything completed, wrapped up, closed out, and reported and sent back, whatever little funds that we may have sent back. So if you start to see changes come 2026, there'll be some minor changes once this office sunsets. I don't know if we're going to take away the NC Pro logo or not, but there will be still the same people doing the same job for the same folks that you've always had. It just won't be under the NC Pro name. It'll be under OSBM name. Okay. That's all I have for today. Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Are there any concerns? You guys are a good group. Nothing keeps you up at night for SFRF. That's good. Me neither. I'm normally so exhausted by the end of the day. I'm asleep in my chair by 9 o'clock. Well, with that then, I think that we have concluded this meeting. We will stay on for a few more minutes if you want to speak individually to any of us at NC Pro.